Good morning, everybody. Very nice to see everybody on this Harmony morning. Harmony is a Wulong tea. Last week, we started this series and we started it with a cliff tea. This week, we're moving to Anxi. Anxi. For those of you who just got up, you're probably thinking, Anxi, where is that? If you check your email, I sent a map this morning, and in that map, there is a picture of a portion of Fujian Province. And to the very north, that's the topmost left position, in faint print, there's something called Wui Mountains. So you go all the way down to the red dot, cannot miss it, Anxi. Anxi is a very old tea trading center and very famous in Southern Fujian Province. And at the end of the day, Harmony, Iron Goddess Light, everything that belongs to that Southern Wulong family passes through Anxi. So that's why it's a very important center. We'll talk a little bit more about Anxi as we go forward. So let's talk about the shop for a minute. On April 3rd, we're closed. We don't reopen until May 6th or so. And you're going to have to pay attention to your email notices. We'll tell you exactly when we're going to reopen because something has just arisen which may slightly extend the trip, but we're not sure yet. So we're looking at some other variables for this trip. And we'll let you know. And hopefully we'll let you know before we leave this upcoming week. So, the most dreaded words after the dreaded words understudy error. You know, understudy error is clearly the most dreaded. But the second most dreaded, tea emergency. You all want to avoid a tea emergency. So this is the last week to come in and avoid a tea emergency. Stock up on everything that you think you might run out of or you think you might be interested in for the next week. So yes, stock right on up. That's one piece of news. Second thing, you frequently hear the tea master refer to how tea is sold in China. And I want to go through that for a minute because she always mentions that people who are buying the best teas buy directly from tea owners, unless they have relatives actually as the farmers.
Tea shop owners or tea shop owners?
Tea shop owners, yes. So what is it that she really means? And why is that different? Not from Sophie's, but from most shops here. And why is the buying experience so different in America versus China? So everybody has certain channels. And one channel is the tea bag channel. You go to the grocery store or you go to a big chain outlet and you buy tea bags. And that's one grade of tea. As you move up the chain, you start going to tea purveyors of loose leaf tea. And in China, the way it's done is they usually go directly either to a tea purveyor who is usually related to a farmer or a region of farms and therefore has direct knowledge of those farms, or they become a tea aficionado and travel around China and go to various farms themselves. So that's the usual rhythm in China for buying loose leaf tea. And the higher a grade, the more involved you either are with a tea owner, or the more frequently you're actually going to the tea farms and talking to tea farmers. Why? Because tea farmers, tea scientists know really about different grades. They know who is growing what grade. They know who is a good processor and who is an adequate processor. These are all things that are well known. Plus, inherently, since the tea is grown in China, they understand scope. And scope here is very, very rarely understood unless one is truly aiming for premium teas. Aiming for premium teas, you understand there's a scope of purchase possibilities, and there's a scope from region, and there's a scope from farms directly within the region. And once you understand that, you have an opportunity to really get high quality teas. The other part of buying from an owner is you come in and you tell the owner here and or in China, hey, you know, I like slightly sweet, or I like something that's really, really light, or I like something that's got a little hint of earthiness in it, little hint of umami. You lay out what your requirements are. And the tea purveyors who are best in the business can tell you right away, hey, based on what you just said, here's what I understand. And then they'll introduce you to something. If you do not follow this model, and if instead yours is purely reading about things or talking to other people who allegedly have information, though albeit narrow, or looking at my favorite, most valuable information provider, the internet. All of these can put you in a tea that's different than what you think it should be. So, for example, and I like to tell this story over and over again, a gentleman came in here, read about a certain tea, a certain yellow tea, and how famous it is in China. And so instead of following my lead in terms of what he might want to start off with, oh no, give me this most famous. And I did say this is light. No, give me the most famous. Okay, I heard you. Gave him the most famous, and then he comes over to me and says, this is light. Indeed, it is light. And that's one of the reasons it's most famous. And if somebody is telling you through the internet, oh no, this should be heavy, that's an incorrect description of that particular tea. So this is why it's so valuable to know the owners, to know the tea purveyors. How many owners here in the US? What's the profile of most owners in the US? Most owners love tea. And as such, they do try and provide a useful experience. But many times their own experience is really insufficient to give you wide scope. And that's the most important thing you should be looking for when you're dealing with any owner. If they can give you large scope, if they can give you some scientific underpinnings, if they can tell you a little bit about terroir, you found somebody. You're likely to be in good shape. Even better is if they've been to the tea fields themselves. Now let's think about this. Been to the tea fields. I had a funny encounter years ago when I went, this before we had Sophie's, I went in the shop and I was doing a market investigation. And I talked to this owner, very, very pleasant lady. And I'm talking to her. And so I asked the question, you've been to the tea fields? Oh, yes, I've been to the tea fields. And so, I'm beginning to feel a warm fuzzy. The scope isn't huge, but there is some scope. So, okay, we got some scope. This person's been to the tea fields. And as I got further in the discussion, what I discovered was that this particular owner had been to tea fields once on a one-day trip or excursion, but bought all of her tea from a wholesaler. And so the result is, has this person really gone to the tea fields? Technically, the answer is yes. But realistically for you, the answer is no. Because until you're going all over, wholesalers can't really usually tell you that much about the tea fields. They really can't. So these are what Xiaobei means when she talks about buying from knowledgeable owners, owners who understand the terroir because they've been there, they've experienced them, owners who can provide you scope because they have scope, they know what that means, and they're able to talk to you about that. All right, let's move away from that and go to harmony. Harmony is always a good thing, correct? And this morning, I'm going to attach a different name to harmony. And as soon as I attach it, you'll say, oh my God, I know now why this tastes this way. So harmony is one different varietal of iron goddess. And as such, it better have some relationship to iron goddess. And it certainly does. So remembering that this is a Wulong tea, what's the difference between cliff teas and Southern Wulong teas? Southern Wulong teas started later. They take usually about 8 steps to complete. Usually you can complete the whole process in 24 hours. You don't usually put it on the market until 30 days after the process is complete, but you complete the process, all parts of it, within about 24 hours. You do the same basic things. You got to pick, right? And if you want best, least pesticided quality, you're going to pick in the spring, because usually those first picks aren't sprayed. No need to spray. And we'll talk about this when we get to the terroir section in a minute. For most of the farmers in Southern Fujian Province, they're doing 2 picks. One is the spring pick, early spring pick, and they get a certain price for that. The other is a fall pick, and they get a certain price for that. Fall picks are almost always heavily pesticided. So when you're buying from somebody and they say, yeah, this smells really, really good, the fall picks typically smell more fragrant than the spring picks. So your next question should be, is this a fall pick? Oh, I don't know. Don't worry about that. It's this varietal. Oh my goodness. They use the phrase, don't worry about that. A very dangerous phrase, because as soon as somebody tells you not to worry about something, that's usually the time you have to start worrying about something. So fall picks, you should be avoiding. If you get either a Taiwanese Wulong or Southern Fujian Wulong, they're both done in the same style, by the way. Different terroir, but same style. About 8 steps. Occasionally you have 9 or 10, but usually done within a 24, 36-hour period. And usually all lightly oxidized. Now, we're going to come back to that statement in a minute. But if you receive a gift and the packaging doesn't say spring pick or fall pick, you better ask the question, hey, bro or sis, when you got this, are you sure that this is a spring pick? And if they say that dangerous statement, I don't know. And if you have any enemies, you should go ahead and re-gift this. If you don't have any enemies, just throw it in the trash. Because you don't know. There's risk associated with this. I like to reduce my risk. By the way, just in case you're curious, all of our Wulong teas are spring pink. So let's get that out of the way right away. And we do this on purpose. So harmony as an iron goddess. Why aren't we calling it iron goddess? Fair, legitimate question. Why don't we call it iron goddess heavier? Because we already have a light, and we have a roasted. If we said heavier, then as a consumer, you coming in, yeah, it's iron goddess. I know about iron goddess. I'm clear. No, the answer to that question is what we found in the early days when we were doing testing is you put the same name, even if you have a different modifier, unless the modifier is very distinctive. So if we said iron goddess devilish roasted, you would never forget that. And if you liked it, you come in, give me the devil. And that'd be very easy. And you'd remember the heavy because no, I don't want the heavy, I want the devil. But since we don't name like that, we give you handles that are easier to remember. And we can certainly tell you that it belongs to the iron goddess family. So let's talk about this iron goddess family. This iron goddess family has a few sub-varietals and a few sub-hybridized plants. So when did they really start doing iron goddess? And how come it's one of the top 10 consensus quality teas in China? It has been for a long time. Top 10. Almost every list you see has iron goddess on it. It's because that light oxidation, oh, that's right, I said I was going to talk about that, not time yet. That light oxidation leaves a nice, distinct, either floral or fruity aroma and flavor. Very distinct. So for early years, the emperors loved this stuff. Then tea experts, as the empire fell apart, Qing dynasty fell apart, they still loved this stuff. So it always appeared on the list. So I said I was going to talk about lightly oxidized. Now, I have to admit, usually because the internet knows everything, I try not to disagree with the internet because, it just looks bad to disagree with an expert. But almost everywhere on the internet, they call this lightly fermented. Now, what's up with that? Lightly fermented. Raw blacks are lightly fermented, but certainly not Oolong teas. They're not lightly fermented, they're lightly oxidized. Wait a minute, maybe there's no difference between the words oxidized and fermented. Let me think a minute. Oh, wait a minute, I'm getting it. Oxidized, a chemical reaction. Okay, that's pretty clear. You know, there's an enzyme which mixes with the air and creates other compounds within the tea leaf. Now, that's real clear. Oxidized. Fermented, a biological process. Chemical, oxidized, biological, fermented. So you got yeast, molds, fungi, bacteria, all in quotes, living things interacting with leaves. And when they interact with leaves, they produce a result within the leaf, of course. Are the results, perhaps the results are exactly the same, in which case you can interchange the words. Sadly, no, they're not the same. I ask you this. Is a fully fermented, let's say a pu'er tea, taste anything like a lightly oxidized? Hey, you know what? Since I said fully fermented, let's say a fully oxidized red tea. Are those things tasting similar? And the answer is no. Different processes produce different results. Yes.
How often are teas marked with spring or fall pick for buyers? Or are they marked like that for at the shop owner level? How does consumers know?
Great question. So as a consumer, how do I avoid LCS behavior of putting tea or purchasing tea clearly that's spring pick versus fall pick? Is there a signal? So the best of the spring teas is actually labeled. Yeah, I am a spring pick, because they know that consumers care at a high level. The best of the teas that are fall picked are also labeled. Hey, me, I'm fall picked. Why do they label them like that? They label them because they want you to know, oh, my aroma is much stronger than the spring pick. So if you don't care whether something is sprayed or not, but you do care about that aroma, I gotta have that floral and it's gotta pervade the whole house and make every guest I have envious, then you buy fall pick. If you care about safety, you buy the spring pick. And that's why the good purveyors have it all labeled. And in China, for the most part, any store that you walk in, if they're selling this as premium loose leaf, will also have on that label when it's picked, or have in the description when it's picked. So a customer came in here 2 weeks ago and showed me a group of teas that he bought, I don't know, somewhere else in California. Who the heck knows where they were bought? And this was a different tea type. This is white tea. And the following question comes up. Hey, look, John, this is real silver needle, because the label says silver needle. I said, that's good. Can you look at it? I look at the label, and I asked him, hey, where's this from? Where is it produced? Not what shop did you buy it? Where is it produced? Because nowhere on the label did it have Fujian Province. Maybe this is Indian white tea. Well, wait a minute. Is there such a thing? He says, I don't know. I said, okay. And it had a little clear plastic pouch so you could look in and see the needles. Except, what else did I see in there? Oh, branches. Branched silver needle. That would have been a good name. because that would have sounded like, oh, a new varietal, branched silver needle. And maybe I would have been fooled by that. But when you label something silver needle, if it doesn't say Fujian, and if it's any good, it will then say either Fuding or Zhenghe or Jianyang. You don't know. You're buying something that somebody has decided to label a certain way, and you're given no clues. Clues are important when you're looking for the best teas. Clues are important when you're looking for spring pick versus fall pick. It better say it. It better say it. But if it doesn't, then believe me, there's a reason it doesn't. Because the best of the LCSs, they want to be suggestive rather than illegal. You know, if you write on a label, yes, I am from Xiping. I've got the top quality Iron Goddess.
But what is top and from where? And you know, it's so subjective.
It is so subjective, especially in the fine print when it doesn't say Fujian Province. Even worse if it says Sichuan Province. If it says Sichuan Province, run as fast as you can from the shop because they're carrying something that is an LCS brand. All right. Let's move forward. Oh, and by the way, I apologize. There are a couple new people on the broadcast today. LCS, liars, cheaters, and scammers. All right, let's move forward. So we've already talked about oxidation and fermentation. We've talked that this is a Southern Fujian tea. We go through the pick process. We wither because you can't do anything with tea leaves if they have a lot of moisture. You got to get them down between 60 and 70%. And then you can do things like roll them. You can shape them. You can fry them, and they won't fall apart. So you do both things. You roll, you fry, you cool, and then essentially you bake to get the moisture level down under 6%. Closer to 3 is better, but you can do it under 6, and that'll work. And you package. That's the basic process. It's not hard. Wait a minute. I said that, boy, that was a false statement. It's not hard if you've been doing it for generation after generation. You sit, you do it in 24 hours. If you put me, it would be very hard. Even though I know the steps in my head, I am just really, as an understudy, clumsy and slow, and I'm always thinking of shortcuts. It's terrible. It's hard under those conditions. But if you're learned and it's been in the family, it's easy. There's no way you can go wrong, essentially. All right, before we move on, I'm going to say one more thing. Oh my God. No, I'm not. No wonder the tea master's been over there pacing,
like a thirsty type.
Yeah, I'm waiting. Here she is waiting close by.
Terrifying.
It is terrifying. So let me bring on the tea master so that she'll brew and demonstrate. Yes, taking your time. I apologize. Demonstrate for you.
Okay.
And then she'll brew with you afterwards. So the first is a demonstration. So she's going to show you the tableau.
Yeah.
And remembering that this is 200-degree water that we're going to use as the base. And we're not so worried about cooling or dissipating, not the same way we are with the 170, 175, the reds, the whites, the yellows, the greens. Particularly Wulong needs the heat. Beautiful tableau with tea toys, pots, making sure that the recipient pot is heated And you do that to make sure, well, for two reasons. First off, you're going to heat up the leaves. And then second off, you want to make sure that there's no stray leaf from a previous brewing in there. Heat up your cups, make sure that there are no soap spots, and you don't want anything to interfere with your enjoyment of this wonderful tea. Tea Master gets her bag out. It's bag number 2, labeled Harmony. You notice it's in a tea ball shape. Again, you're watching her brew. You're not brewing yet. There's 5 grams in that. Actually, I'm wrong. There's 6 grams in that. And she puts it in the Yixing pot. We set the timer for 2 minutes. She's going to shake the pot because she wants to get the heat distributed among the leaves. Start to sense that floralness. And then she's going to draw 200-degree water. So this is really no different. With this type of quality of tea, you want to treat this almost the same way as if it's grapefruit tea, in the sense of making sure that the heat is consistent both inside and outside. All right, and she pours on. We start the timer. If you're using ceramics, this will be a 3-minute steep. Using Yixing, this will be a 2-minute steep. And using this, those of you who have the special pots, do 1 minute 30 seconds. You don't need a full 2 minutes with this. All right. And you can actually, if it weren't already prepackaged, you can use fewer grams. You wouldn't use the 6 grams, but since it's prepackaged, just use the 6 grams and brew it for 1 minute 20 seconds. You would use 5 grams if you had a master 1 ounce package and were brewing it. Okay, so we've gotten through the process, and we're talking about how relatively simple this is. The one more thing I want to say about this before I go to the next subject is pre-1970, in fact, pre-1980, all of this looked like cliff teas. In other words, they rolled them into long strips, they roasted them more. And it's only in recent years that stylistically they've roasted them less and that they're in balls. Now, sometimes I'm confused. Terrible when an understudy is confused because, you know, I've had people come in here and say, I want green tea. Hey, that's great. I love green tea. Let's see, let me think. Green tea, unoxidized. Unoxidized. So, you know, I'm trying to direct them around the board. And eventually their eyes hit Iron Goddess Light. Oh, wait a minute. I said green tea. What? Look, you have Iron Goddess Light. Okay, timer is gone out. Story to be continued. You notice Tea Master carefully pouring out the tea liquor. Not in a hurry, very steady, not trying to make bubbles in the tea liquor. Making sure that all the water is out of the Yixing pot. And look what we get. Oh my God, we get this color. Yours should look like this color. Let's see if we get any aroma. Oh my God, we get an aroma too. I better look at these leaves. Let's see if anything has happened to these leaves. Oh, they're still pretty, oh, wait a minute. They're beginning to open up. Oh, and they have a really good smell. Now, you notice, by the way, for those of you who weren't paying attention, especially if you're a newer person, did I stick my nose in this pot? I actually left distance because this was done at 200 degrees. You don't want to fry your nasal passage. So you need to be careful when you take these smells, just like you need to take a 200-degree inhalation as you enter the quality arena. What's the quality arena again? This is where we find out about mouthfeel, astringency levels, density or lack thereof, aftertaste, and energetics. So let's get to it. Inhalation, remember. This is an inhalation where you only get a very little bit of liquid because this is very hot. You roll it around your tongue. You look for where the astringency is. And don't worry if you hear people say, well, mine's at the front, mine's at the back, mine's at the roof. We're genomically different. Wherever it is in the mouth, I want to hear, I've got astringency on my fingers. Wherever it is on the mouth, in the mouth, is fine. I already sense where it is in my mouth. I'm getting an aftertaste. Oh, I love this aftertaste. I don't see the energetics yet, but I'm going to take a second sip. Ah, there's an energetic. Okay, now it's your turn. So I don't share those thoughts with you because you're going to share yours with me. And I don't want to influence you unfairly as to what to think, because lots of things are valid, remembering, of course, that all of us are slightly different. So you're getting your water ready. It's 200 degrees. You're setting your timer for 2 minutes. You're going to make sure everything is heated up, whether you use a ceramic pot or an Yixing pot. Both are just fine. Don't use a glass pot if you can avoid it. Glass pots dissipate the heat too fast. They influence the eventual flavor profile. That's not good. So she's put water in there, making sure that the pot is heated, absolutely clean. Getting all that water out. Looks once more to make sure there's no stray leaves of anything in there. She's getting her package marked number 2. Emptying the leaves and transferring them into the pot as you should be doing. You notice this is tea rhythm. Not in a hurry. We're not racing through this. We're neat. We're careful. We don't want to waste one leaf. They're in the pot. We're shaking. This is the heated pot, so we're getting a sense of the aroma. She's drawing the 200-degree water. And remember, she's going to pour inside the pot and on the pot. The recipient cup already has 200-degree water in it. Again, steady, not in a hurry, very controlled, rhythmical, tea rhythm. Okay, and we set the timer for 2 minutes. Now, And we return to this incredible story. Green. I want green oolong. Now, if they had said green oolong instead of green tea, I'd have gotten them to where they need to be right away. Even though green oolong is a little dicey, at least it puts me in the right part of the board. Is Iron Goddess green? The answer is no. You can accept green oolong, but it's not a green tea. We already said this is lightly oxidized. Some of it is lightly to medium oxidized. That means that the leaf has been damaged, not damaged, but bruised and exposed to outside elements to make those changes. Those changes not only influence flavor, they also influence the aroma. Unoxidized tea is going to be a certain band. Oxidized is going to be another band in terms of flavor and aroma. So that's why it's important to get that distinction in your head. Don't make this mistake. All right. So I always give you terroir. So let's go through the terroir elements, because otherwise you'll think, oh, this is incomplete. He didn't tell me the most important stuff. Mid-subtropical. That's what this area is. The summers are hideously hot. Nobody ever describes them as hideously, but I've been there during the summers, believe me. Hideously hot, and even worse, hideously humid. So think New Orleans at the height of summer. Very ugly. All right. The timer has gone off. So if you have an Ishin pot and they're brewing it in it, you're already pouring it out. If you're in a ceramic pot, it'll be a few more seconds. Notice, not in a hurry. I'm going to get every drop. You want every drop out. Okay. So again, thinking about what it looks like. Look at this color. This color is golden instead of the color of Iron Goddess Light. Iron Goddess Light actually is green. This is golden. So already we know something's different here. Maybe I'll tell you what's different right away and taking a break in the story. Yes.
I have comments.
Oh, comments. I love comments.
The leaves and the aroma. In the bag, there are hints of vanilla. In the heated pot, hints of honey. And then the leaves in the cup, there's a grassiness to this. And beautiful tweed colored leaves, humbly, roughly rolled is how this participant describes it.
Love this description. Humbly, what was the other adjective?
Roughly rolled.
Roughly rolled, okay. And the dried leaves, hints of vanilla. The wet leaves, slight hint of grassiness, distinct hint of honey and sweetness. I like these descriptions. And for those of you who've had Iron Goddess Light, whether you've had it here or somewhere else, it's different. It's very different. What in the world is causing this difference? Is it just the plant itself? The plant's one tiny element. The real element is roasting and roasting temperature and methodology. In Iron Goddess Light, they get that roaster up to, oh, I don't know, anywhere from 229 to 221 to 239, and they roast it slowly. And that produces light roast. Beautiful light flavor. This one, they roast it in the beginning higher, significantly higher. Let's talk significant. How about 250 to 270? Somewhere there. and then they slow roast it. So it makes a huge difference. Little things, little process differences make big differences in end results. Anything that you're going to do will have an end result difference. Some things have more, some things have less. Roasting, of all the things you can do, has the largest end result difference. That's why Harmony has such a different flavor profile than Iron Goddess Light. All right. So we were talking about the fact that, you know, somebody comes in and says, I want green tea, and then we get the green oolong. This is a lightly oxidized oolong, is the best way to describe this. Yes.
Another participant says, the dry heated leaves gave her this slight aroma of orange blossom.
Oh, how interesting. The dry heated leaves and aroma, slight aroma of orange blossom. I like this comment because typically all Iron Goddess somewhere in the process has some hint of a volatile that evokes a floralness. Great catch.
And just a little comment, a wonderful comment. So the next part of it is that for her, the wet leaves gave her this vegetal and umami smell. And after that, she states the flavor started with a little of the roasty taste, then the sweetness comes and reminds her of honey from an orange orchard. Smooth, whole mouthfeel.
Love this comment. Smooth, whole mouthfeel. In the quality arena, we're looking for smooth. We got smooth. We're looking for full. We have full. So already we know, hey, this thing's pretty good. Now, this commentator had further comments. When they were wet leaves, there was an umami-ness to them and a vegetalness. Love that comment. Nothing off base there. And then by the time we get to the tea liquor, what do we have? We have some hint of honey, hint of roast, still a little hint of orange blossom, all compacted into this golden liquor, which is so different than the Iron Goddess Light. Yes.
Another participant says he got a scent of chocolate off the heated leaves, and then the steep leaves had a hint of florality. Tea liquor has florality and a caramel scent with some sort of hit of the ocean. And he clarifies for caramel, not caramel, sorry. He clarifies it's actually more like a honey scent. So honey is a predominating form different from caramel of sweetness, hint of ocean, hint of florality.
Florality, ocean, and honey. Hints of all of those in the tea liquor. You can't go wrong with a tea that has those. You may not like one or more of those as your primary taste, but the fact that you have that is amazing with this. The other thing that this commentator mentioned was the dry leaves, when heated, had hints of chocolate. Love that comment, because this commentator smelt all the way down and into the whole totality of what this was giving off, and detected that chocolate. I think I missed one part. What was the one part I missed?
It was, I think you got everything. It was just okay. That different, a different type of sweetness. That honey, that's right. Honey instead of caramel. So
okay, good catch. Yeah. Different type of sweetness, because burnt sugar and honey aroma. The honey aroma always puts you in the fruit field. The burnt sugar puts you in the kitchen. Both are good, but they're different. All right. So I'm going through the terroir with you, right? Humid during the summers, hot as Hades during the summers, winters, relatively mild, little rain. How much rain does this area get? depending on where you are in this area, and this area is a large area, think county-wise, slightly larger than a county, you're getting anywhere from 66 to 82 inches of rain annually. And most of it's coming during the summer. So you're getting good rain. The watershed is beautiful. Rivers all over the place. The best places where this tea grows are anywhere from about 1,500 up to 4,500 feet above sea level. Tons of individual villages hidden in these mountains. Good transportation. What about the index intensity meter? I'm glad you asked, because everybody thinks about this as part of terroir when they go places. Mosquitoes everywhere all the time, unpleasant. Okay, we've got that out of the way. Oh, wait a minute, there's more. Spiders, apparent. Oh, okay. I'm certainly less enthusiastic about going to this place. I still go to it. Hey, one more thing. Centipedes and other ground-hugging denizens abundant. Wow. You got to keep your eyes open when you're in this area. But what that's really telling you is that there's a lot of intensity, both weather-wise, insect-wise, and all of that adds to the terroir, doesn't it?
And no pesticides, clearly, because everything is abundant and growing and slithering and jogging rapidly.
That too, yes. Certainly the places I'm talking about, no pesticides either. What about the cultural terroir? I know all of you are waiting for a story. So let's see, do I have time for, oh, I have time for a story. So let's do it. What story let's tell the origin story. So, Iron Goddess origin story. Where in the world, well, first off, historically, when did they start producing? Sometime between 1723 and 1735, sometime around that time. In the Southern Fujian Province, got that all taken care of. So there was a farmer. His name was Wei Yin. Don't worry about the name, not famous. But locally, you know, a very good family man, great farmer, just a really nice person. And in the area, in this particular village, there was a statue of Guanyin. So this is, you know, the goddess of mercy, benevolence, just a really good luck goddess to have by you, especially if you're good. If you're good, it redoubles. It's like advantage. It redoubles everything that happens to you. That's on the good side, of course. So the farmer, you know, has the sleep of bliss every night. So one night he goes to bed, he's deep in slumber. He has a dream. I have a dream. Oh, wait a minute, not that type of dream. His dream was I see a plant, and this plant is growing in rock crevices. This is an interesting plant. It's got green and purple buds on it. And, you know, he's deep in the stream and just enjoying, you know, this plant dream. And darn it all, a village dog starts barking. Don't you hate that? You know, you're at home, you're deep in sleep, and some old dog starts barking. So you wake up. But when he got up that next morning, this image was deep in his head. So he said to himself, I'm going to go out and walk around and see if there's a vision nearby which matches this. So he's walking around. He gets close to where the Guanyin statue is. Rock crevice. And in that rock crevice, this beautiful plant with green and purple buds growing. He goes up to it, oval leaves. Hey, this seems like a tea plant. carefully excavates it, moves it home to an iron tripod, and plants it and carefully tends it. He knows what he's doing because he's been a tea farmer for a long time. Just lovingly and carefully makes it grow, harvests it, and then produces this wonderful fragrant tea. This is a family treasure, a family heirloom. Occasionally, when a special guest or relative comes over, he gets out this tea and they're always blown away. So one day, the local head teacher comes to his house, and again, this guy is very, very moral and devout and does honor for this teacher and brings out this tea. And the teacher says, hey, tell me about this. This is really unusual. So the farmer goes through the story and the teacher says, what's the name of this? He says, I don't have an official name for it yet, but I'm going to call it Iron Arhat. Arhat is a warrior, really. And it's a Buddhist warrior. And if you've ever seen images of them, they have ferocious faces. And in fact, if you ever met an Arhat out in the field, you wouldn't know, is this a demon or is this something good? You know, how am I supposed to know? So the teacher said, no, don't do that because these things are ferocious. They give the wrong impression. This tea is sweet and elegant. Let's give it the appropriate name. Let's call it Iron Goddess of Mercy, Teguanin. So that's the cultural terroir that surrounds this tea. Yes.
We have several more comments on the tea from participants. So one person found that the warm leaves in the pot gave her a sort of a burnt toast roast aroma.
Burnt toast?
Mm-hmm.
Burnt toast. Okay. Love this comment. Hint of burnt toast in this. So why do I especially appreciate this comment? Because we have Iron Goddess Roasted, which is more distinctly in that line, but it comes from the same lineage. And therefore, by being able to taste down to this possibility is incredible. Great comment.
Another participant says, the feel on the tongue is a combination of astringency and roastiness, and a mix of flavors that make him think of almost lotus leaves. He doesn't know why that comes to mind, but that's his experience.
Astringency and roastiness as a tongue feel. And one of the flavors that comes to this particular commentator's mind is a hint of lotus leaves. And that is a fine comment for this. And actually, I realize now in the cultural terroir, there was a reference in that story to lotus, which I didn't actually say because I knew that for most of you that wouldn't have a resonance, but one of you already picked up on that resonance. Yes.
Another participant says, the flavor is long lasting and it's warming to the core.
Flavor is long lasting and energetics wise, lasting to the core.
Warming
to the core. My energetics, by the way, was calming to the core. So we're all in that same vein. Yes.
Another participant says for her, the greatest energetic is comfort, or energetics are comfort, warmth in the body, in harmony.
Comfort, warmth, and oh my God, in harmony. Great comment.
Another participant says for her, the energetics are that of stillness.
I like this, stillness. You know, I use the word calming, but I like the word stillness more because for me, that stillness resonates even more than just calming. Mine is more than calming. It encompasses stillness. Great comment. All right. See, oh, yes. Gosh, occasionally I get on time. That's always like winning the lottery. Oh, or it's like a broken clock, which is right twice a day. So occasionally I catch by accident being relatively on time. Great session. You guys, all of you, were really, really great with the commentary. Appreciate the comments that you made and the attention to detail with this. This is a great tea, frequently overlooked because we have so many teas, it's hard to remember that we have something like this. Name-wise, saying harmony from our perspective meant that everything was balanced, was in harmony for this particular tea. Next week, we go from Southern Fujian back to the Wulong Mountains. And we go to a cliff tea called Lava Mountain. It'll be fun. It'll be different than these first two that we've tasted. I can't wait to get to that. In the meantime, your responsibility this week, as always, stay healthy, stay focused, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.
Take care.
Bye.